So we've completed all our audit planning using one form, the FSA worksheet, tailored work programs. Now let's have a look at the audit response, or the actual field work, the year-end work if you want to call it that, and how to document that, and the features that Caseware can give you for doing the actual work, completing the procedures. I usually would advise people to use the document manager now, because I think this is the work that the team members are doing, and they would work in these audit sections and they want to add supporting documents, etc. So now I would say the document manager is a lot easier to work with compared to the dashboard. Okay, so how would this work? Let's start with the audit program. So I'm going to my audit program, and I'm now actually the person doing the work. We tailored the audit program, and I'm going to do my analytical procedures. I'm actually doing that on my lead sheet, I think. So I'm clicking this plus reference, this plus button to create a reference, going to my receivables, and I'm linking my procedure to my lead sheet. So then I can just click it and jump into my lead sheet, and this is one example of the lead sheets for receivables. So the referencing, I think, is quite easy for a user to navigate, but also for a reviewer to quickly drill down to the details in the engagement file. At the bottom of my lead sheet I have this text area here, so I can use that to write a summary or whatever I want to do at the document level. If I'm doing an analytical review, I usually want to make some comments, want to add some notes. So let's say I'm comparing this to that. I could then use my annotations and say, okay, this amount has increased compared to last year. Sorry for the typing. That would just create a little quick note, and it would say who has created it, and if I hover over it, I get the explanation. It's very flexible. I can make as many notes as I want to. It automatically renumbers, so that makes it easy to work as well. And then again, for review purposes, you can switch on all the notes, and you can just go through all the notes. And if I hover over note 1, you will see that note 1 or the corresponding note actually lights up as I hover over it. So I think that's a very convenient feature. If you want to actually mark off accounts as being completed, well, when I started in audit, they gave me green, blue, black, and red pen, and they taught me how to set all these tick marks. So that's something we can now do electronically. I can go in and say, okay, well, this is agreed to invoice, and it would set all these ticks for these accounts. Or I could do any other tick, whatever. All these tick marks can be modified at the template level as well, of course. So if I go here to the tick marks, this is our default set that you can get started with, but it's quite easy to add one. Well, you can just go all out and pick all colors that you want. Okay, so I'm just saying that's something that's Jaap. When I go back into my lead sheet, that's available, and you can see that tick mark now has been added. You can even add pictures to your tick marks if you want to give it a very personal flavor. One of the big drivers for all the work that we do is that we want to offer you the option to do a paperless audit. That will save you lots of space in your office. It will make it so much easier that you don't have to carry these hard copy files around anymore. But I know that some of you still have requirements for your local peer reviewer that you need all your files in hard copy. So you can either do it as you can print your files, you can save it as PDF, which basically gives you the same result. And just to show you what a document like this would look like if you print, I can go to the print preview, and you can see that your tick marks are actually there. And quite important, they're explained at the bottom. I think that's something that junior team members usually forget. Your notes are converted to footnotes, and your summary text is there as well. So even though we would like you to do a paperless audit, you can still print it, save it to PDF, and have hard copies. Okay. that's one. Let's go back to Document Manager and let's say we want to do some supporting documents. So I don't know, maybe you receive an Excel file from your client or you create an Excel file. Well, let's take the first example. I have some documents here on my desktop, and if I select a couple, I can just pick those up, drag and drop those into my caseware file. Same for a PDF or any Word document. Well, basically any file, I can just drag and drop that into my caseware file like that. So now if you use sync, these changes will be automatically synchronized to another file. Of course, it's now more files, so it might take a little bit longer, it takes up a bit more bandwidth. Or if you don't use sync, if you take the whole file with you and you save it as an archive, you put it on your laptop, these files will be included. So this part of the document manager I think is really convenient, and it just helps you to take everything for your engagement. Now something that I can do here, let's say I'm looking at this amount and I have that in my Excel sheet. I can do a right click, create a manual reference, create a reference, new document reference there, go into my document manager, go to my receivables current and link it to my Excel file. That would create a link, a reference, a hyperlink, and by just clicking it, it will launch Excel, it will take me to that Excel file. So usually you would do a calculation in your Excel file, etc. So this is a very convenient way to drill down. Since I'm in Excel now, I would also very briefly like to touch upon Caseware Connector, which actually shows up as a separate tab in Excel. And what I can do with Connector is I can create an Excel file that actually reads the data from working papers dynamically. And in order to configure that, I have this dialog here. And you could see while I was opening it that it right away populates all these lines, and this is actually the data from my engagement file. So we're in trade receivables. I don't want to get into too much detail, so this might be a little quick, but I can now say, okay, this account 700, I'm going to link it there. Then I'm going to go to my cell B, and I'm going to say, well, I want to pick the description for my account, not as data, but as a formula. And it would put it there. And then I go to my cell C5, and I'm going to pick up my, my actual balance, and also link that as a formula. So the connector dialog helps me to create these formulas, and then applies those formulas to the cell in Excel. And you can use all these options here at the top to say if you want, well, if you do consolidation, which entity, if you do multiple periods like monthly or semi-annually, which period you want to show, which year you want to show, if you want to have the adjusted balance, reporting balance, or consolidated balance. So just by using all these options, the connector will create the right formula for you and put it in your Excel cell. Now let's have a look at those formulas. So 700, this was just my account number. So I have an account number 701, 702 as well, I think. And let me just not make that bold. Then this formula, it actually becomes a Excel function. So I can also click that Excel function box, and it now says Caseware account description. So this shows that it's a function that connects through connector to Caseware working papers. I have my account number hard coded, so it's a value 700 now. So instead of having this value, I could link this to my cell A5 like that, and of course it would give me the same result, but now this formula actually picks up the account number from A5, gets interpreted, and then brings in the right value from working papers. I can do the same here with my amount. So it says BR, which is the balance type for reporting balance, which is the balance including all adjustments and reclassifications. And that's something you can change with that connector dropdown. I'm also going to point this one to my account number here. Okay. And now I've made these formulas relative, so I can just pick them up, copy them over, and it will pick up the description from my caseware file, trade receivables 2 and 3, and the values from my caseware working paper file. So there's a couple of things you can do with Connector. So you could use it like I'm doing right now, which is kind of to build up a specification or to do an audit test and reuse data from your working paper file that's using accounts. You could also do that at the mapping level, and the mapping will be the same for all your engagement files because that's the standardization point of your financial data, and that would mean that you only have to build your Excel file once. You could just copy it over into other caseware working paper files, and it would right away work, would right away populate. Well, you could also bring in the name, the sign-off state, etc. So it's a very short introduction, very brief on what you can do with Connector, but this is well, just to give you some examples. Maybe to explain, it's still Excel that you're working in, so all the other functions that I'm used to in Excel all still work. So also my formatting, I can format these cells. I could even build a nice graphic based upon this data that comes from working papers. If I now go back into working papers and I change something, when I go back to Excel, that change is reflected right away in the Excel sheet because it's a dynamic, real-time connection. The final thing I can do here, or well, there's more, but what I would like to show is that I can also make references from my Excel sheet back into my caseware documents. So, well, let's go back to the lead sheet. So I've created a reference from my lead sheet to my Excel file, and I'm now creating the cross-reference back from my Excel file to my lead sheet. So, but just clicking it takes me back to the lead sheet. So it opens up just a whole better way of integrating Excel sheets into your electronic engagement file. Okay, that's one. Something else that I really think is interesting is working with PDFs. And I just got to check this here. Yep. So usually when you add a PDF document to working papers and you would launch it, it would just open up your external PDF viewer. So I don't know what the name is of this one, but that's oh, it's Foxit Reader. That's an external program, and I can read my PDF. That's fine. But now if you modify this, go into the properties and say, instead of using the external viewer, I'm using my internal image viewer, the one that comes with working papers, and I open up my file, it would actually show the PDF within caseware working papers. And with that, I'm now able to use my annotations at the face of this PDF. So I can do sign-offs, tick marks, and drag and drop them to the line that I want to set the annotation on. I could also add a note, or now it's actually more a text box, or I can choose to show it as a text box, and I can just drag and drop that, but show it on the face of this PDF. So an invoice could be one example that would help you with your as part of the audit evidence. But it could also be a contract, and well, this one I like too, because especially in a contract you might want to highlight a specific area so that it's really clear and easy to get to for the person reviewing. So one of the main things why I like this feature that much is this was the final step into going completely paperless. Before we had this feature, there was, even though you would do 90% of your work within working papers, you would still need a little hard copy file with all your scanned invoices, contracts, etc. Sorry, invoices, not scanned. And you would make manual references to those hard copy files. But now that we have this feature, a lot of clients actually equip their staff with scanners. So then you could use this one here directly, scan a document directly into the document manager. I think everyone has a mobile phone, so you could. This also works for JPEG, so you could just take a picture of an invoice and add that to your document manager, and then do all your annotations on it. And finally, similar to what I did with the Excel document, I can now also make a reference, or in this case, make a cross-reference back to my lead sheet, and just put that here. And just by clicking it, I jump to the lead sheet. So I think those are just a couple of features how you can do your field work, your year-end work, that are really, really helpful, and that would really help you do your audit paperless and a lot more efficient. Okay, now two more things on the execution of the audit. One is document sign off, completion. I can do a right click and say this document is completed by. That will then create an entry and show my initials and the date in this completed by column. I can do that for multiple documents. Let's skip the work programs. Say these are all completed by. And if I do both roles, completed by and reviewed by, you will see that I get the big green tick, which shows me this document is completely completed. And my file has been configured here to only have 2 roles there. So if I want more roles, 3, 4, up to 8, or even different role sets, I can configure that as well. So just want to show you that this is possible. And then with the filtering, I can choose to only see the completed documents, or I can choose to see all the not completed documents. So that really makes a large file a lot easier to handle and easier to navigate. That's one thing. I think that's quite relevant, quite important. The other thing is what we call issues. If I find something and I want to escalate it, or I want to make sure that it gets a follow-up, I could create an issue. And compared to these little notes that I just did as annotations, those are just a little piece of text. An issue actually has more workflow to it. So I can say, I don't know, difference found. I can classify this issue as a type. So these are the default types that come with the template. You can actually extend these types and create your own issue types. It's quite easy. So okay, just going to do this. I can assign it to a specific user. Not going to do that right now. It will be linked to this document 130 because I created it from there. And now I can do a description like please do this or please do that. If I now click OK, it will show there's an issue linked to this document. If I hover over it, you get a preview, so you can quickly see what is it about. I can also switch on my issue pane, and going to all issues here will actually show me all the issues that are part of this engagement file. And then by double clicking, it will bring up the whole issue again. Okay. If let's say someone else has completed the issue, you just go in, type the resolution, say this is now complete, 100%. If I click OK, you will see, I hope you noticed that the issue turned gray, got a nice strike through, so that means this has been dealt with, this is completed. That's not necessarily the end of the workflow, because you can also choose to clear, or you can also set the issue as being cleared. And then you can choose to either keep it on cleanup or not. So, sorry, I was educated at the Big Four, so we were not allowed to have any issues, review notes hanging around in the file. So that's we have this cleanup process that would delete any issues that are cleared. You don't have to do that, but just to show you that that's the complete workflow. Okay, so those are I think some very useful features. There's more. You can save as PDF. You can export any document into Excel. That's quite relevant as well. You can even make PDFs with multiple documents embedded and then send that to your client. But that's a bit too much to get into for this presentation. The final thing, because we started with the work program, let's go back to this work program, say the analytical procedures that has been completed. So I'm saying, okay, completed, well, let's say something was wrong, noted with exceptions below. I can now go in and type something, this was wrong, for example. Well, just do a, do something. And when I choose this completed with exceptions noted below, and I do add a comment, I also get this little red icon here, that when I click it, that automatically creates a issue for me, and it actually copies over the text. So now it's not that long, but these things can become quite long. Something that was found. So it's just to give you a little bit of efficiency that we copied it over for you. And then you can just click OK, and it will be recorded as an issue. Okay, so that's that. All the other procedures you can just complete, or say non-applicable. This is actually quite nice. This one will do all the sub procedures as well. The default template is configured that not applicable is the only completion response available for this automated sign off. You can change that in your profile settings. Then you can add yes or no to it as well. But we didn't want to do it because usually if you do yes or no, or if you do no, you want your users to add a comment. Okay, so this is just to show you how you would complete your audit procedures. Then going to the bottom, there's the conclusion. Quite important, I think, is that the team should always add something to the conclusion, not just have the out-of-the-box default conclusion there. Okay, so I think that concludes the risk response, how to execute, how to perform your procedures, document your audit work using the Caseware Document Manager, and then going back to the audit program and sign off your procedures.